Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, ma'am?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, how's your hand doing?
Doing better. It's still oozing. The pain is not as bad. The swelling a little bit more today than normal, but it's doing good. And I got some movement in my hand. Yeah, I know, right? I know.
That's
So I
amazing.
see the surgeon again this afternoon. So
Okay.
we'll see what he says. He does not like me on steroids, but when you put me on steroids, everything starts working real good. So we'll see what he says. But it's doing good.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
kind of the same way with her back. They gave her steroid shots and
Yeah.
she doesn't like it because one, she gains weight, obviously.
Yeah, you do.
But
Yeah,
she's
I
like,
got
it
4 Sims
helps.
right now.
She's like, it helps. And I just don't know what else to say about it. Like, if it helps. And I'm like, well,
Yep, I
when it
understand
works.
that. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
What you
I
doing?
epic I epically don't have my life together today. I double booked my so I have to be in Lano by 11:30.
At what time?
By 11:30.
What are you doing in Atlanta?
Um
Okay, so today is buyer's reps. I don't know that you two have any issues with buyer's reps. So since we'll just wait, other people may jump in, but it is recorded. So let's talk buyer's reps. Do y'all have any questions about them? I mean, the cool thing is with EXP, we've always used them. So it was like business as usual, I feel like. I don't feel like anything changed. I already had the verbiage down. So what was y'all's thoughts when this kind of switched over and you need a buyer's rep before you open a door?
Um, it wasn't hard to switch. I think it was more of I didn't know how people were going to take it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have such an issue with explaining it and going over it. It was more of you hear all the horror stories of people getting denied
right.
and walking away.
Yeah,
And so I think that was more of like my my fear, but I haven't had any issues this far. So,
good. What about you, Stephanie?
I haven't had any issues either. In fact, Paris and I we're working a client together right now, and our client was like, "Hey, remember, send me my buyer's rep before our showing." And I was like, "We're working on it." Um, so we haven't really had any pushback, but I feel like it's really good. I feel like that's a good thing because we're educating our clients ahead of time. So as long as you get ahead of it and you let them know, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm going to send you. This is what it says. Please read it before you sign. It's really important that you understand what you're signing before you sign anything. I'm available for questions. If you'd like to review it together, happy to do that. And I think that that makes a really big difference in your client's comfort level also.
Yeah. I think as a listing agent, what I've noticed in this area is I'm just speaking from my experience, so this may not truly be the case, but we've had more calls on our signs now. And if you have a call in your sign, you don't have to have them sign a buyer's rep because you're opening it for the seller.
Right.
Now, if they want you to represent them in any way, then at that point, if they want intermediary, then you would come in and we would have them fill it out. But Wayne goes on and gets it signed. But then when we follow back up with them, we've found that they've gone and seen 3 more houses, but with the person listing it as well. And so
Right.
then Wayne's like, remember I talked to you about that buyer's rep? So even though you didn't choose that house, we can represent you anywhere anyway. So what the buyer's rep is only as good as the next buyer's rep that is signed. So what I think that what I'm noticing is even as well as we're explaining it, they're signing multiple buyer's reps at this point.
Yeah.
And so I've had to kind of talk to Wayne about, okay, hold on. You need to ask them, have you signed this form with anybody else? And if they say, yes, we have, then we're going to stop this appointment right now. You need to call that other agent, and that other agent needs to come in here and show you this house. We need to respect those other agents because that's the only way we're going to stop this madness. Because I feel like some of the buyers right now, their interpretation is they don't need a buyer's rep. They're going to get a better deal if they go straight through the listing agent. And in the end, if you write your listing contract correctly, they're not getting a better deal.
Right.
And you're not making any less money because the way I write my contract is I'll put listing side 3% if I bring buyer for intermediary. I don't put intermediary because y'all too with me with being saying the brokerage, that's intermediary. So I'm
Right.
now negotiating your commission up front. So I'll put bring the buyer side on my intermediary 3%, so 3 and 3, and then unrepresented buyer 3%. So I've covered all three things. Whereas if I put intermediary 3%, that means I just negotiated your compensation plus mine. Well, that's not fair to that agent. And intermediary means listing and selling. So I just cut 3%. So I just made it 1.5 for each one of us. So we got to be very careful how we word that. But that's kind of where I'm like, dude, you think you went through me because you could get a better price, but you're an unrepresented buyer. So now I'm getting the full commission, just like our compensation, sorry, just like I was, my number may be 5%, 3%, 2%, 1%, 10% on land. It depends on what I've negotiated out with the seller of my value and my worth.
Right.
And so the buyer's rep agreement, it hasn't really changed for us at all, to be honest, except for I feel like there's a lot of clients out there now. Nobody's a customer anymore, everybody's a client. There's a lot of clients out there now that are just thinking they're in Vegas and they're going to get a better deal. And actually, they're not, because they're not being represented correctly because of the way they are going about shopping.
If anything, they're worse off.
They are.
Personal opinion, if anything, they're worse off because they don't know when if they're getting a good option
They,
period, or if the earnest and option that's being asked for is on par. They have no idea. They're just
Right.
getting what they get and assuming that it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I we haven't seen any pushback, so that's been really good. In fact, that same client that was like, "Hey, don't forget to send me my buyer's rep." Um, she's really cute. So we actually got them pre-approved, and that is something that I will say to agents. If you are getting somebody pre-approved, go ahead and make sure that you have that buyer's rep signed before you get them pre-approved. Because what happens is they run their credit, and then everybody in the mortgage industry can
Start calling.
see that they've applied for a loan. So they start calling. And what happened with my client yesterday, another brokerage, actually, another mortgage company called them and was encouraging them to switch agents and use their preferred. Hey, we'll give you a loan at a
Yes.
discount. We're going to discount this loan package. If you use our preferred realtor, you need to use our realtor. You need to use our agent. And my clients are fantastic. And he was telling the guy, "You don't understand. I already have a mortgage and I already have an agent and I don't need you."
Well, and that
Um,
goes back to where I say the 12x2 referral program. You reach out to lenders and ask them for referrals. And
right.
you look at our lender that some of us use, she has referred some people to me when they had another agent in this area that couldn't get something sold. She's like, use Tammy. And
Yeah.
so, they're just doing their job, but as signing a buyer's rep and representing a buyer and explaining all of them on, explaining what it is to be a buyer and going through that process is explaining that as well. You're fixing to be spammed to death and they are going to tell you to fire me, but I'm telling you, you don't want to fire me. You want me. Used to in the industry, used to being like a few months back, we would I know, right?
Back in the
Back in
day,
the good old days.
January 2024.
Somebody would call and want to look for a house, and I would say, "Are you represented by a realtor?" "No, I'm not." "Well," and my next question is, "Have you ever signed a buyer's rep with another realtor?" "No, I have not." "Okay, has another realtor ever shown you a house in the last 6 months?" "Oh, yeah, just saw one 2 days ago, but they're not my agent. They don't know." "Okay, well, did you sign this form?" Yeah, you know what? They had me sign something, but I didn't read it. They didn't explain it. I didn't read it. Well, back in the day, we would say to them, "We need you. If you want to use us, you need to send them an email letting them know you're terminating the buyer's rep and you're going to go another route. And then send me that email. Send me that email." Guys, it's the wild, wild west right now. That doesn't even matter anymore because a buyer now can have 10 buyers reps signed. And I will tell y'all what I do. Used to back in the way back days, we're talking 3 years ago, I found agents that they would sign that buyer's rep for a full year and they would claim counties. And I saw one where it was the whole state of Texas. And I was like, "Okay, do you have competency in the whole state of Texas?" And she was like, "Well, no, but I can refer it out to somebody else." "Okay, I get it, but come on now." So what I've always done is I get it started and I put the individual addresses that we are going to see in there. Now, we're going to see 21 like that one client, God love her, we're closing on Friday finally. But 30 something houses, 4 towns, end up 5 towns by the time it was done. 2 full counties. We were all over the place. I finally said, "I'm done. I can't keep putting addresses in here because I just add the addresses as we go." I'm like, "I can't keep doing that. We're just doing Burnett, Llano County. Are y'all cool with that?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're not going anywhere." So we just put Burnett, Llano County. But I've gotten to where I'll just put an address and they initial out next to it. And we just keep that in their file. And as they see houses, they just initial as we add those different houses on there. That way, if they want to go with another agent somewhere else, I give them that flexibility to do that. But if
Right.
they go under contract of one of mine, they don't have that flexibility. I took the time out of my day to show it. Yeah, I mean, it just makes it, but that's a preference too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a preference. You can put a whole county. I mean, in the rural areas, you're going to see a lot of houses in a county. Very easy.
Right.
You know, I just want to make sure that I'm covered. I did get a listing contract the other day and there was not a 2406 with it. And I sent a message to her. I told her, send a 2406. And she was like, "Okay, I'll do that." Sent me the contract and there was no 2406. And I was like, I called her. She didn't answer. I called again. She didn't answer. And I called again and I was like, "Listen, you need to call me." And I just sent a message, 911, "You need to call me." And she called and I was like, "Do you not want a compensation on this?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, it's a standard percentage, right?" And I was like, "Baby, that was 5 months ago."
Hey, let me ask you this. Um, Let me ask you this, kind of a different deal. On farm and ranch.
It's in the contract.
On farm and ranch, it's on the contract. On Sky Slope, they're still asking, even with the farm and ranch contract, they're
Oh,
still asking for the
yeah.
2406. So I made a little note in there to my little Sky
Oh,
Slope
yes, it is.
person, and I was just like, "Hey,
Yeah. And
Page, blah blah blah. Do I still have to do this?"
so I just make it, yeah, you just make a note.
They still haven't issued my CDA because of that.
They probably, what I'm noticing is they're just issuing them 4 days before. Like they're like, I think it's like I would just respond. I would send an email to the Texas Team Transactions along with texasbrokers.com. And I would say, "Hey, thank y'all very much for the compliance department. How much I appreciate that y'all keep us in line. However, the compensation agreement on compensation between the seller and the buyer's agent is only on residential. It is not on raw land, it's not on commercial, and it's not on farm and ranch. My file is a farm and ranch and it's included on page such and such. I am going against the standards of TREC and TAR if I go get an extra form that does not, it's not included in this."
This one I have the CDA for one that closes 4 days later, but I
Yeah.
don't have the CDA for that one.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I just bring the Texas brokers into it because you got to remember they're only checking boxes. Like
Right.
they don't
Right.
have
Well,
things.
and there's not as many, just throw my pencil. Um, there's not as many of us farm and ranch folks at EXP. So
Well,
sometimes, and
but
most of what EXP does is residential,
But if you
honestly.
were to bring that up of, hey, wouldn't it be beneficial if y'all just took that line out of your template because it doesn't exist. So one of the things in my contract is the intermediary. If I bring the side, it's already in my listing contract. So they're wanting a 2406 on the intermediary one. No, I've already negotiated that in the listing contract. If I come back and negotiate again, that's a percentage on top of the percentage I've already negotiated with my sellers. Now, if it's an intermediary with another EXP agent, that's different. But I've already negotiated that. And so and you know, with the buyers, I will say this, with the buyer's rep agreement, if you negotiate a certain number of compensation with your buyer and then you come in and you fill out a 2406, you're not allowed to ask for more than you've already negotiated. If you negotiate four with your buyer and you come on a 2406 and ask for 3 from the seller, you don't even have to have an amendment because it's less than 4, unless you don't want your buyer to have to bring 1%. Then you're going to do an amendment to the buyer's rep agreement and make the amendment to the buyer's rep agreement match the number on the 2406. You always want those two to match. Okay. But you can't come in and ask for more when you've asked for less to begin with. And that's something that on the buyer's rep for me, what I will do is, hey, this is kind of where I start out because this is the work that I'm going to do for you. Here's a value that I bring to you. But we're going to ask the seller and we're going to negotiate that. And I'll ask up front. And if they're not willing to pay a commission, let's still see the property because you may really love it. And maybe I can get you a decent enough price that we can roll that compensation into that number. But if we can't roll it and they don't want to pay it and you don't want to pay it, then you just don't have to buy the house. That's up to you. But I still need to show you the house. And I've not had any, I just haven't had any pushback. And honestly, I haven't had any pushback in, like, we're not having these in-depth I'm not even having people ask what the compensation is anymore to show a house. Because I think they finally realized I don't need to tell them what the compensation is. They just need to go show the house and do their job and put it in the negotiations. It's business as usual.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think we have to explain it very well up front. I do have a buyer's guide that I've never used. I've never even ordered it because I use my seller's guides all the time. I'm actually going to go on and order them and have them ready. I feel they say that the predictions for 2025 is that it'll be 10% more closed transactions than we had in 2024.
And hey guys, speaking of statistics, let me see if I can pull it up. Did you guys see? I do have it. Let me find it. Downloads. Medium home sales price has climbed after 7 out of the 8 last presidential elections. And it looks like, I want to say, the average home price increase after an election was 6.24%. 6.24% is a big increase. And it looks like since 1992, there's only ever been, after the 2004 election, prices went down. Other than that, all of the other elections, home prices have gone up.
Yeah,
Let's see, there was something I was going to mention on here. Nolly sent out a text message this morning. Did y'all see
He
that?
did. He did.
Let's talk about that real quick. Let me find it though. I gotta find it. Okay, Nolly Williams. Ready to become a listing authority in your market and break through your current income ceiling? You don't have to do it alone. I'm excited to invite you to my Listing Accelerator Academy with a Done With You program. My team and I will work directly with you to build a powerful listing business from scratch in 90 days. So, just FYI, guys, that's a good one to get your people into. Good one, especially if you want to be a listing agent. Another thing. Okay, are we good with buyers rep agreements?
Yes.
Do you think that's
I
enough?
have about 5 minutes before I have to bounce.
Okay, perfect. So a real quick another thing, like there was a thing that came up after EXPCon where, oh, EXP is giving away free Canva. And this lady posted in this group. I'm in a group in lots of groups. And she said, oh, so $13.99 a month is gonna entice me to come over for an 80-20 split, desk fees. And she kept going on and on. And actually, the owner of the group, which is with Keller Williams, she's not with EXP. And she said, well, hold on a second. I understand you have a 100% commission, but she had like a cap fee on every closing is what it was. And I think it was $500 on every closing. She said, if you're a high producing agent, like that doesn't even make sense. And she said, some of the people in here, and she goes, and these people can speak up, they're doing 50, 60 units a year. So the amount they've paid to your brokerage is astronomical compared to EXP's an 80-20 split. And after 16,000's been paid in, they go to 100% with a 250. Once they hit the 21 transactions, the 250 goes away. After they hit the five, she just spelled it out. She knew everything about EXP. After the 500 in E&O is paid, the $50 per transaction goes away. She said, so and then they get their 16,000 back. So at the end of the day, they truly they've paid like 5,000, they paid 5,000 for the year, and they've paid the $85 technology fee that you're not getting because you don't get your free website and all this other stuff. So if you're not a high producing agent, yes, it makes sense that you're there. But for people that are really working this as a career, it makes absolutely no sense. So don't come in and destroy EXP as a brokerage. I was like, no.
Amen.
She's
Amen.
and I did the math based on based on my so far stuff, and it would be $30,000 for me to be with them just in transaction fees. So $85 5 times 12. So I pay 1,000, and that can't be right. That's not enough money. I pay $1,020 a year to get my website, to get my KV Core, to get all of these things, which I was paying more than that just for Wise Agent CRM without a website. Most websites are like 1,000 plus a month. And then I do pay $250 per transaction for I'd say about 18 transactions. Well, $5,000. So 5,000 plus, so $6,020 is truly what I pay a year to be with EXP versus if I was to go with that one and done just on every transaction, $30,000, no stocks, no beautiful everything. And I thought, wow, that makes sense. So then I got to thinking, all right, ladies, we have to go for the high producing agents. They're the ones
Because that's where the money makes sense. That's where the money makes sense.
Yes, that's who benefits from EXP. The ones that are doing 3 and 4 transactions a year and that's it. I don't know that they benefit from this model, to be honest. If they never want to grow, I don't know that they benefit. I mean, there's benefits, but when you look at
Yeah.
the way this lady presented it, is there really benefits?
Right.
I mean, if you're only doing 3 or 4, you're really not a full-time agent. You really don't need everything EXP has to offer because you could care less. I say care less. That was probably rude. You just don't want to do anymore. Just go hang your sign at a brokerage that doesn't charge you desk fees and doesn't have 24-hour support and doesn't have your broker call you on a Saturday to say, congratulations, you are a finalist. It's fixing to be released. Like, wait, what?
Right.
You know?
But I mean, the flip side of that too, though, okay. And this is something that I just had a conversation with somebody over the weekend. Another agent, she's at a brokerage where the broker's her friend. She doesn't have any fees. You know, she has a split. She doesn't know what her split is because she hasn't sold anything because she doesn't know how and she doesn't have any training and she doesn't have anybody to teach her because her broker's busy. She doesn't have time.
So she can't
She doesn't
grow.
have the infrastructure in place to teach her anything.
Yeah.
So she's just kind of a sitting duck. So, I mean, there's kind of the flip side for new agents. If they want training, this is where to get it.
Or even
There
old.
is, I mean, just within our organization, we have a meeting every week. Nolly has a meeting every other week. Next level agents has 2 meetings a week, on top of the Texas broker meeting, on top of Texas
All the time.
contracts class, on top of all of EXP's education nonstop. So it really just depends on where they are in their career. If you're new and you need to learn, I've heard a lot of people say, hey, EXP is not great for new agents. Yes, it is, but who you sign with matters.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
matters.
True.
Because you have to know without a doubt that there's an infrastructure of education and support in place to be successful.
You have to have the motivation and the want to go get it.
Right.
I'm
You have to
sorry.
be willing to work,
Yeah.
and you have
Real
to be
estate,
willing to carve
not,
out time out of your day
it's not handed to you.
to go get it. No, it's not going to be handed to you here. Nobody's going to go and pay for leads and give them to you. You have to learn how to create your own leads. And I'll be honest, to this day I've not paid for leads. I've done the advertisement boost through Make It Rain, which all that does is boost you to the top
Right.
of Google, which is fine. But I've never purchased a lead and I've made it. So
Yeah.
you don't have to purchase
Well,
leads to make it
in
somewhere.
2016 or 2017 and 18, before I was with EXP, I got roped into a year contract with Realtor.com.
How is
They,
that?
oh, they told me all the wonderful things. I was a new agent, just hitting out there. I didn't need it, but I thought, man, I'll take more. I'll take more in a heartbeat. Because I couldn't get past that 6 million mark. Like, I just couldn't break that ceiling. So I was like, let's do it. Well, this is what I found. I paid for a lot of clicks and leads, and they were drunks that were searching in the middle. They would hit that much.
Hey.
And, oh, they were not solid at all. And it was, I think, maybe out of a full year. And in the very beginning, of course, the way those systems are set up, they send you a couple really good leads. So you're like so excited. And then all the drunks come in. And, God bless the drunks. I think I've been there back in the day. That's way back, Stephanie. That wasn't 4 months ago. That's way back. Where, you get stuck on QVC in the middle of the night and you can't get
Yeah.
calling in. Instead, now you're on the internet looking for houses.
Hey.
Because they cussed you out the next day. I didn't click on nothing. But it was terrible. I mean, I'd never a good lead. Now I know that Zillow, there are some agents that are preferred Zillow agents. And they make some decent money, but they do high splits they got to give a lot of their money back to Zillow. They pay some big money. And but then they work with buyers all the time. But if you got 20 people in one town, then all 20 of you are getting the same lead.
Right. I'm
Right.
out. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
Yeah. I
And I
like,
don't have to. I
well,
don't have to because we've all learned, we've all done the homework, we've all put our time in, and we know how to generate leads for ourselves. We don't need to go and buy leads.
yeah, well, KB Core has the system, our
Right.
CRM, the system to be able to get those leads for free.
Right.
I will say I do like making it rain for $250 a month. It's not giving you leads, it's shooting you to the top it's getting you to the top of the Google searches for areas. I mean, it makes sense. If you're wanting buyers, I got listings from it. So,
Right.
pretty cool. I think I did it for 2 or 3 years. A lot cheaper than Realtor.com and Zillow. And I mean, I was appreciative of it. I tell people all the time, if you're slow and you don't want to manage and keep your keep you up in a high Google search, that's the best thing to do. Let it do it for you if you got the money. I
Right.
mean, the bottom line is this, you do have to spend money to make money.
You do.
I mean, you don't have to, but there'll be a ceiling that you hit well, and the first thing is if you don't spend money, it's a business. Look at big businesses, they spend money to make money because if you don't spend it, then you don't pay IRS anyway.
Right.
So you kind of
You're
need.
losing it one way or another.
So do you want to pay IRS or do you want to take that money and put it back into your business and
Right.
continue to grow your business? So it's really not spending money to make money, it's being a good business person.
Right.
Maybe that's what we need on is like a CPA that talks to us about the business aspect of it.
I like
Ooh,
that.
that'd be good.
That'd be
Yeah.
really good.
Because nobody taught me that stuff in the very beginning, and I was writing big old checks to IRS. And then
Oh,
with my accountant now, and she's like, okay, we can do this, this, and this. You need to buy something for your business, or what you need to up your marketing monies. And I'm like, but I don't want to spend that money. She goes, well, you don't spend it now. You write the check at the end of the year to IRS.
right.
Okay, I'll spend it now. Okay. So those are some thoughts. I know Stephanie, you have to go. You're going to
I
Atlanta.
do.
Paris,
I have to bounce.
I'm gonna bounce too. You good, Paris?
I'm good.
All right. It was great visiting with y'all.
Love you, peeps.
Likewise.
I have
Bye,
a great
y'all.
Bye.